Right now, someone in your life is running psychological warfare on you, and you don't even know it, because real manipulation never announces itself. It doesn't walk into the room with a warning label. It arrives dressed as concern, as friendship, as love. And by the time you realize what's happening, your decisions are no longer your own. Machiavelli once wrote that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. He wasn't celebrating manipulation, he was warning you about it. He understood that power flows through invisible channels, that the most dangerous control is the kind you can't see until you're already trapped inside it. I know this because I once lived blind to it. I had colleagues who praised me in public and poisoned me in private. I had relationships where every conversation left me feeling guilty for boundaries I never violated. I had friends who drained my energy while convincing me I was the problem, and the worst part, I blamed myself. I thought I was weak, sensitive, overreacting. But the day I learned to see the patterns, the subtle linguistic tricks, the emotional manipulations, the strategic confusion, everything changed. I stopped being a target and became untouchable. And if I could return to that version of myself, the one who gave his power away without realizing it, I'd teach him what I'm about to teach you. Most people think manipulation is obvious. The villain in the movie, the abusive tyrant, the con artist. But that's not how it works in real life. The most effective manipulation is surgical. It operates beneath your conscious awareness. It makes you doubt your own memory, question your own perceptions, and slowly hand over control while believing it was your idea all along. There are 9 dark psychology tactics that people use to control you. 9 methods of psychological warfare that, when you understand them, become powerless. And by the end of this, I'm going to show you not just how to recognize them, but how to reverse them, how to take back your sovereignty and make yourself immune to manipulation forever. Machiavelli warned that a wise ruler must learn to recognize traps before stepping into them. The fox, he said, recognizes traps, and the lion frightens wolves. You must become both, sharp enough to see manipulation coming and strong enough to refuse it without apology. This isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about becoming aware, because awareness is the only antidote to control. Once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. And once you understand the game being played, you stop being a piece on someone else's board and start commanding your own. So here's what you must understand first. Manipulation always begins with trust. Nobody can control you without first gaining access to your psychology. That access is earned through familiarity, through patterns of interaction that lower your defenses. The manipulator doesn't attack your walls. They get you to open the gate yourself. And that brings us to the first tactic, the one that almost everyone has experienced but almost nobody can name. So grab a pen and paper, because this isn't theory. These are the exact techniques being used on you right now, and learning them is how you become untouchable. That brings us to Phase 1. Phase 1, the foundation of psychological warfare. Tactic 1, emotional debt loading. This is the silent weapon most people never see coming. Someone does you favors, small ones, unsolicited ones, and never asks for anything in return. Not immediately. They're generous, kind, always there when you need them. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to accumulate emotional debt. Machiavelli observed that benefits should be granted little by little so that they may be better enjoyed. The manipulator understands this instinctively. They don't overwhelm you with one grand gesture. They layer small acts of kindness over time until you feel indebted to them. And debt creates obligation. Then one day they ask, not for something small, for something that violates your boundaries, your values, or your peace. And when you hesitate, they remind you of everything they've done for you. Suddenly, you're the ungrateful one, the selfish one, the one who takes but never gives. This is how control is established, not through force but through manufactured guilt. You begin making decisions not based on what you want, but based on what you owe. Your autonomy slowly dissolves. The reversal. Recognize unsolicited favors as potential traps. True generosity never tracks receipts. The moment someone reminds you of what they've done for you, they've revealed their strategy. From that point forward, refuse further favors. Politely decline. Pay back what you can in clear terms, and understand that anyone who keeps score was never operating from kindness. They were investing in control. Machiavelli would tell you this: gratitude is a virtue, but obligation is a chain. Know the difference. Tactic 2. Perception fracturing, gaslighting. This is perhaps the most dangerous tactic because it doesn't just control your behavior, it rewrites your reality. The manipulator denies things they said or did. They tell you events didn't happen the way you remember. They question your memory, your sanity, your perception itself. You say, "You told me you'd be here at 7. They respond, "I never said that. You're remembering it wrong." You say, "You promised we'd talk about this." They reply, "I never promised anything. You're being dramatic." Over time, you stop trusting yourself. You begin to believe that maybe you are overreacting. Maybe you did misunderstand. Maybe the problem really is you. And once they've fractured your confidence in your own perception, they can shape reality however they want. Machiavelli wrote that men are governed less by truth than by appearances. The gaslighter exploits this. They know that if they can control what appears to be true, they control you. The reversal. Document everything. Keep records, texts, emails, notes of conversations. Not because you're paranoid, but because evidence destroys gaslighting instantly. When someone denies reality, you don't argue, you present proof. And if they continue to deny what's in front of them, you don't try to convince them, you leave. Because anyone willing to fracture your reality to maintain control is not safe to keep close. The moment you stop letting others define your reality, you reclaim your sovereignty. Tactic 3. Strategic ambiguity. The manipulator never commits. They speak in vague terms, half promises, and implied agreements. Maybe. We'll see. I'll try. Probably. Every statement has an escape hatch. This keeps you in a state of uncertainty, always hoping, always waiting, never able to plan or move forward. This ambiguity serves two purposes. First, it keeps you engaged. You can't walk away from something that might still happen. Second, it gives them full deniability. They never technically lied because they never technically promised. Machiavelli understood that uncertainty is a weapon. A prince who keeps his intentions unclear keeps his enemies guessing. But the manipulator uses this against you, not as strategy in war, but as control in relationships. You find yourself constantly trying to read between the lines, interpret tone, analyze every word. You become obsessed with decoding their real intentions. Meanwhile, they give you just enough hope to stay, but never enough certainty to relax. The reversal. Demand clarity. Ask direct questions and refuse vague answers. Are you going to do this or not? Yes or no? If they continue to dodge, treat their ambiguity as a no. Machiavelli warned that he who builds on the people builds on mud. In modern terms, he who builds on ambiguity builds on air. The strategist moves only on solid ground. If someone refuses to give you clear commitment, stop waiting for it. Make your decisions as if they already said no, because functionally, they have. Phase 2. The weapons of emotional warfare. Tactic 4. Intermittent reinforcement. This tactic is borrowed from behavioral psychology and weaponized in relationships. The manipulator gives you unpredictable rewards, attention, affection, approval, just often enough to keep you hooked, but inconsistently enough that you're always chasing the next hit. Sometimes they're warm, present, engaged. Other times they're cold, distant, withholding. You never know which version you're going to get, and that unpredictability creates addiction. Your brain becomes wired to pursue the high of their approval because you can't predict when it's coming. Machiavelli observed that fortune is a woman and must be beaten and struck to keep her under. While his language was harsh, his point was about the unpredictability of power. The manipulator uses this same unpredictability to keep you emotionally dependent. You start modifying your behavior, walking on eggshells, trying to figure out what will bring back the warmth. You blame yourself when they're cold. You feel grateful when they're kind. You've become a rat in a Skinner box, and you don't even realize it. The reversal. Recognize the pattern. Once you see that their warmth and coldness follow no logical pattern related to your behavior, you understand. It's not about you. It's a control mechanism. From that point, detach emotionally. Stop performing for their approval. Consistency is the mark of sincerity. Inconsistency is the mark of manipulation. Walk toward people who are steady and away from those who keep you guessing. The sovereign man does not dance to another's unpredictable rhythm. Tactic 5. Isolation through triangulation. The manipulator creates conflict between you and others, not openly, but subtly. They tell you what someone else supposedly said about you. They report back to that person what you supposedly said about them. They position themselves as the mediator, the only one you can trust, the only one who really understands you. Slowly, your other relationships deteriorate. You stop trusting your friends. You pull away from family, and soon the manipulator is your only source of connection, information, and support. You've been isolated, but it feels like it happened naturally. Machiavelli warned that divide and conquer is the oldest strategy in warfare. The manipulator uses this same principle, not to conquer nations, but to conquer your autonomy. Once you're isolated, you're easier to control. The reversal. Verify everything. If someone tells you that another person said something about you, go directly to that person and ask. Most of the time, you'll discover the story was exaggerated, twisted, or completely fabricated. Rebuild direct communication with the people in your life. The manipulator's power dissolves the moment you stop letting them be the gatekeeper of information. A prince who allows one advisor to control all intelligence becomes blind. Don't let anyone become your only source of truth. Tactic 6. Weaponized empathy. This is one of the cruelest tactics because it hijacks your compassion. The manipulator constantly positions themselves as the victim. Every boundary you set becomes an attack on them. Every time you prioritize yourself, they're devastated. They're always struggling, always suffering, always one crisis away from collapse. And somehow, you're always responsible for saving them. They cry, they guilt, they frame your self-care as abandonment. And because you're a good person, you stay, you sacrifice, you drain yourself trying to fix problems that were never yours to solve. Machiavelli wrote that the prince must learn when not to be virtuous. In this context, that means understanding that endless self-sacrifice is not virtue, it's self-destruction. Compassion without boundaries is not love, it's exploitation. The reversal. Boundaries are not cruelty. Saying no is not violence. You are not responsible for managing another adult's emotions. The moment you recognize that someone uses their pain as a weapon to control your behavior, you must step back. Offer support within limits, but refuse to be held hostage by their suffering. True victims seek solutions. Manipulators seek control disguised as need. Machiavelli would remind you, the ruler who sacrifices his kingdom to save one citizen loses both. Phase 3. The architecture of control. Tactic. 7. The shifting standard. The manipulator constantly moves the goalposts. You meet their expectation, and suddenly the expectation changes. You accomplish what they asked for, and it's no longer enough. Nothing you do satisfies them because satisfaction was never the goal. Control was. This keeps you in a perpetual state of inadequacy. You're always striving, always failing, always trying to prove yourself. And the harder you try, the more power they have over you. Machiavellian rulers used this tactic to keep subordinates dependent. By never offering full approval, they ensured constant effort and loyalty. But when used against you, it's psychological imprisonment. You start believing you're not good enough, that if you just try harder, work longer, sacrifice more, you'll finally earn their respect. But you won't, because respect was never on the table. The reversal. Stop performing. The moment you recognize that no effort will ever be enough, refuse to play. Set your own standards and live by them. The manipulator's opinion becomes irrelevant once you stop seeking it. Machiavelli taught that a wise prince does not depend on fortune. Similarly, a wise person does not depend on another's approval for self-worth. You are not here to meet someone else's ever-changing demands. You're here to build your own kingdom. Tactic 8. Forced teaming. This is the manipulator's use of premature we language. We should do this. We think this. We need to talk. They create a false sense of partnership or alliance before one actually exists, forcing you into a psychological agreement you never consciously made. It's subtle, but powerful. By framing things as collective decisions, they bypass your individual agency. You find yourself going along with plans you never agreed to, simply because the language assumed your consent. Machiavelli observed that alliances must be built on mutual benefit and clear terms. Forced teaming is a counterfeit alliance. It has the appearance of partnership, but the reality of subordination. The reversal. Correct the language immediately. When someone says we and you haven't agreed, respond with, "I haven't decided yet," or "That's not something I'm committing to." Reclaim your individual agency. Don't let someone else's language trap you into obligations you never accepted. The sovereign individual speaks for himself and lets no one speak for him. Tactic 9. The manufactured urgency. The manipulator creates artificial deadlines and crises to force hasty decisions. I need to know now. This offer expires today. If you don't decide immediately, it's over. They know that pressure eliminates careful thought. When you're rushed, you're more likely to make choices that benefit them, not you. This tactic removes your ability to reflect, consult others, or consider alternatives. It's designed to trap you in reactive mode, where emotion overrides logic. Machiavelli taught that the wise man does at once what the fool does finally, but he was talking about seizing genuine opportunities, not responding to manufactured pressure. The manipulator exploits this principle by making you believe every moment is that critical opportunity. The reversal. Slow down. Any deal, decision, or commitment that can't wait 24 hours isn't worth making. Real opportunities allow for reasonable consideration. Manufactured urgency is a red flag that someone is trying to bypass your judgment. The strategist refuses to be rushed. When someone pressures you for immediate commitment, that pressure itself should make you more cautious, not less. Time is your ally in decision-making. Anyone who tries to take it from you is not your ally. Closing the sovereign mind. Now you see it, the 9 tactics, the invisible architecture of psychological control that operates in relationships, workplaces, families, everywhere humans interact with intention to dominate rather than collaborate. But here's what Machiavelli understood that most people never grasp. Knowledge of these tactics doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you sovereign. Once you can name the game, you stop being played by it. The weak see manipulation everywhere and become paralyzed by suspicion. The strong recognize it when it appears and move decisively away from it. There's a difference between awareness and fear. Awareness protects. Fear imprisons. Every tactic I've shown you today operates on one fundamental principle. The manipulator needs your ignorance to succeed. They need you not to notice, not to question, not to name what they're doing. The moment you can articulate the pattern, their power collapses. Emotional debt loading loses its grip when you refuse to accumulate debt. Gaslighting fails when you trust your own memory and keep records. Strategic ambiguity becomes irrelevant when you demand clarity and walk away from vagueness. Intermittent reinforcement stops working when you recognize the pattern and detach. Triangulation dissolves when you verify information directly. Weaponized empathy fails when you set boundaries without guilt. Shifting standards become meaningless when you stop performing for approval. Forced teaming collapses when you reclaim your individual voice. And manufactured urgency loses its power when you refuse to be rushed. You are no longer defenseless, you are no longer blind, and most importantly, you are no longer controllable. Machiavelli wrote that one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. But he also wrote that the wise man learns from others' errors. You've just learned from the errors of everyone who came before you and handed their power away without realizing it. The manipulator counts on your silence, on your self-doubt, on your inability to name what you feel. But now you have the vocabulary, now you have the framework, and with it, you become untouchable. Remember this, psychological warfare only works when it's invisible. The moment you shine light on it, it evaporates like smoke. Every person who's tried to control you through these tactics was only able to do so because you didn't know they existed, but now you do. And here's the final truth that Machiavelli would want you to understand. The goal is not to become a manipulator yourself. The goal is to become immune to manipulation. There's a difference between understanding dark psychology to exploit others and understanding it to defend yourself. One path leads to isolation and paranoia. The other leads to sovereignty and peace. You don't need to manipulate to win. You just need to stop being manipulated. And that happens the moment you value your autonomy more than someone else's approval. So as you move forward, watch for these patterns, not with suspicion toward everyone, but with clarity about what healthy interaction looks like versus what control looks like. Healthy relationships operate on honesty, consistency, mutual respect, and clear communication. Manipulation operates on ambiguity, guilt, confusion, and hidden agendas. The people who truly care about you will welcome your boundaries. They'll respect your clarity. They'll appreciate your strength. The manipulators will call you difficult, sensitive, paranoid, or selfish. That response tells you everything you need to know. If this philosophy spoke to you, if you recognized even one of these tactics being used against you, don't stop here. On this channel, every lesson is a Machiavellian law, the kind they teach only in the back rooms of power. Watch the next video, learn the next strategy, and continue building the kind of psychological sovereignty no one can take from you. Subscribe not for motivation, but for mastery.